Your American political knowledge as a good Canadian lawyer is chef's kiss, I got
Oh,
to say.
thank you, Stephen.
The
And
show's
your
begun.
knowledge is good.
Whatever that may be in whatever discipline. We're joined, ladies and gentlemen, by TSN's offside host, Eric Macramalla. The show is all about the whole legal and business side of sports. And we had a doozy this week as far as Hockey Canada and Canadian hockey and World Juniors from 2018 this week. So I want to talk about that. But I do want to socialize with my friend a little here first. Eric, how are you today?
My man, it's so great to see you. I'm loving your new setup. It's very crisp. The colors are vivid. You've never looked better, although you've never looked great. So this is really, the bar is low and everything is fine. I'm just, wondering how misshapen my upper body really can get.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm most disappointed in myself is that the bar was low to begin with. I'm not putting any effort into my physical well-being. I'm really disappointed. And my parents said, I am a loser, a low-energy loser like Jeb Bush. They were right.
That's nice.
It is
so
nice.
While you sit there and envy me for my new setup here and the great camera work that
and you're really good looking. My God.
Well, yeah, there's that. I didn't sound like that a moment ago. It sounded like you're abusing me. But as you sit there all misshapen, now, if you had a camera like this, it may not be all that flattering. This is the struggle, right? The background looks good and the colors look good. And I think this happened, and you like the pop culture, during the changeover of cable television to the HD world.
Yes.
Like the actresses on the show Desperate Housewives.
Yes.
They weren't real fond of it because it was showing off everything. And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like a desperate housewife right now. People are seeing the 19 bags under my eyes and the wrinkles and such. I don't care for it, but I do appreciate
you know what?
your
I
compliments.
don't see it. I just see a young, vivacious man I don't see any of the imperfections, but Stephen, the imperfections is what makes us perfect. Isn't that the case?
Sure. I'll go with that. You being a child of the 80s, I got to ask as well, man. Theo Huxtable. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that Eric Macramalla runs our fantasy football draft every year, and he, from day one, has billed it as the Family Ties special. No, Family Ties pool, whatever.
The Spectacular. Family Ties, and Spectacular. That's right.
There you go. And it's always had.
I was raised by TV, Stephen, so I thought Tony Danza was my dad for the first 5 years of my life. That's why That's why I play baseball.
Nice.
And I'm always thrown out at home, sliding in head first. Go ahead.
I'm never gonna get this joke in.
Sorry.
Sorry. I was raised by wolves who had TV. That's me.
You were raised by wolves. Sounds like you were on the set of Yellowstone.
True.
It seemed like every 5 or 6 episodes on Yellowstone, or I don't know, 1923, or was it 1882 or 84? There's always an episode with a wolf trying to kill someone. You know,
that's true.
Yeah, it's quite something.
Yeah, they like Taylor. What's his name? Taylor Sheridan loves that.
Yes,
I guess he loves that. I've watched them all. I just finished 1923 not that long ago. Like what? There's that really pretty blonde actress who's in it. I don't know if you've seen 1923, but
yesterday I was in the final episode of 1923 of season 2, episode 7, and then Emily decided to give me a PowerPoint presentation on how to empty the dishwasher, so I had to stop 10 minutes in. But that really pretty blonde girl, you mean from 1880 something?
1923.
From 1923, you mean the one who does the voiceover, like who does the narration, 1923, or the guy's wife? Who's pregnant?
The guy's wife. The one, she's pregnant. Anyway,
she's good looking, but it's all in HD, so I see all the imperfections on her face, and I'm disgusted.
No,
I'm just kidding.
She's a peach. How dare you? But
she's stunning. Please. She's
Taylor
so good looking. I resent her.
Taylor Sheridan, though, decided, I don't know what she did to offend him, and we're getting way off topic here. But like I've never seen a character take so much abuse in that as this woman did in 1923. But I digress.
Spoiler alert.
I think I would. No, I think that's very general. I think that's general enough that it's not a spoiler alert. I think it's okay.
I say it all the time, by the way. Spoiler alert. That's why I said it. Like, what's for dinner? Spoiler alert. Broccoli.
Right. So back to the being the child of the 80s. We had Theo Huxtable, Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yeah.
We had Hulk Hogan. We had Ozzy Osbourne. If you want to slow, because I think Chuck Mangione also kind of slid into the 80s with some of his smooth, easy listening
Dulcet
trumpet
tones.
playing.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I don't think he ever sang. I
No?
guess I guess tones can be dulcet if they're coming out of a horn.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Although I've read your book, Dulcet Tones Out of a Horn, and I think that they can. It was a hell of a book, by the
okay.
way. Very niche.
Oh yeah,
Very
okay,
niche.
nice. So you must have been touched by all of this 80s. I was going to throw in carnage, but that's not the appropriate word. All of these passings that have
Yeah, I
occurred
mean,
in
with
the last
Ozzy
week here.
Osbourne, he gets, he's had Parkinson's for a while, so the fact that he was still alive was always a surprise to me. But that was something. That was, that was deeply unfortunate and tragic for his family. And then on to the next one, Theo Huxtable. So kind of going from my standpoint, insofar as impact, that one was upsetting. 54 years old by drowning, and he was a part of our childhood, right, on the Cosby Show. But the Hulkster, I mean, this is an icon. This is someone who was probably one of the most well-known people on the planet, and someone who had the it factor, and someone who carried the WWF to relevance and prominence all by himself, effectively. He was as iconic as you can possibly be. He's the Hulkster. It was that one was a shock, to be honest. That's one I'm still trying to process. You?
I absolutely same across the board. I mean, that whole Cosby thing was, TV in its heyday, I think, for most people. And now who knows where TV is headed, but they're long past their heyday. There's no question about that. Hello, Stephen Colbert.
Goodbye, Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
See,
I meant
you see what I did there? You see what I did?
In terms of the topic, I mean.
No, I know, but you see what I did.
Yeah. Goodbye. He's out for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw Jon Stewart's follow-up to that, like, and South Park. Oh my God! Like it feels like if Trump really wants to get going, he can start picking these guys off at random because he's taking an absolute beating and a well-deserved one. But be that as it may, my thought on it was that kind of the heyday of TV for sure. And Ozzy Osbourne, I did go through a heavy metal phase when I was playing minor hockey and such, and had the hair going and everything. Had a fabulous mullet in the 80s.
You had a great mullet when you were at the station. When I first met you as well. You had your baseball cap covering the top of your head, and you had a little mullet in the back.
Yeah, it was a mini mullet by then, though.
Yeah.
I think it was down to something reasonable. In the 80s, not so much. Turtleneck under the hockey gear, SK2000 helmet, and the mullet at the back.
You were Thomas Plekanec with a mullet. I love it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
The Ford It's a Big Deal event is on. Right now at Jim K. Ford, lease a 2025 Escape Active all-wheel drive from $198 bi-weekly at 1.99% APR for 36 months with $2,755 down. That's like $99 weekly. Plus a $750 bonus for eligible Ford owners. Like we said, it's a big deal and it's on now, but not for long. Visit Jim K. Ford today for details or online at jimkford.com.
At Jim K. Ford Lincoln, we say yes!
Here in Canada, we don't just make lights. We craft possibility, connection, and celebration, built right here by people who care about what they're creating. At Celebrite, we're made of all the colors of the RGB rainbow, each person bringing their own brilliance. Because when we come together, we make something brighter. Celebrite.ca, proudly made in Canada.
So let's jump in. The Sens in the news this week for a lot of reasons. This is a former senator, though, that was involved in the World Junior case of 2018. And that is, well, in fairness, I did invite you onto the podcast before any of this broke. So it was a fortunate circumstance in terms of topic matter that a legal story popped up the way it did. The trial came to an end, the 2018 World Junior trial. Team Canada, 5 players were all charged with sexual assault. Alex Formenton, the former senator, among them, and they were all found not guilty. It seemed like that came as a shock to a lot of people on social media. To others, they seemed to see it coming. What was your read on things as all 5 players were cleared?
Well, I've been covering the trial on my Smash It Show Offside since it started. And I've been saying all along that an acquittal was likely for all 5 players. I wasn't surprised. And the reason I wasn't surprised is the more and more I covered, the more and more I went through the testimony offered up by the complaining EM on direct and on cross, and then Carter Hart's testimony on direct and cross, and the witnesses coming in, the legal arguments being offered up by the defense, and the jury being dismissed, but mainly the testimony and the evidence presented. I had a very difficult time believing that the Crown could establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt is a very high burden. It effectively means that the judge has to be certain that the players engaged in unlawful criminal activity. Certain's very, very high standard. There wasn't any evidence presented that would suggest beyond a reasonable doubt that the players were considered to be guilty. That I want to be clear about something. So maybe this helps understand what I'm talking about when it comes to this burden of proof, is that the defense doesn't have to prove anything. They just have to raise doubt on whatever is being advanced. And
Right.
if the judge doesn't know who to believe, then the accused are going to be acquitted. If there's a reasonable story that can be accepted based upon the evidence that is not what is being alleged by the complainant, then the players are going to be acquitted. The reason I say that the Crown fell well short of establishing guilt beyond a reasonable doubt is that with each of the 5 players, you can have a different result for each of the 5, by the way, right? You can have some are guilty, some are not guilty. But each of the 5, based upon the testimony offered up by EM, there seemed to be sufficient basis to conclude that she was either consenting, or there was more precisely doubt that she was not consenting. A good example is Ottawa Senator's Alex Formenton. So with Formenton, that to me was a situation where I said on my show, I don't even understand why he's a defendant. Because they're in room 209, she takes him, she's naked, takes him by the hand, leads him to the bathroom. She turns around, they have relations. She then turns around and faces him and gratifies him. So the holding of the hand, the 2 instances of sexual activity, that's consent. Or at least you could reasonably say that's consent. Because what the judge had to figure out here was, did the players take reasonable steps to determine consent on EM's part? This case came down to consent. Because we know sexual activity occurred. The issue is, did EM consent to it? Consent is kind of this nebulous, or it's a legal term, it's got a lot of tentacles to it.
Mm-hmm.
She could be saying yes, but the circumstances might be such where she's clearly saying no. So in a case like that, there's no consent. Or intoxication, because she said she was really drunk. The way that works is that if you're just a bit drunk, you have the mental capacity to consent. If you're highly intoxicated, you don't. So the Crown's position was she was highly intoxicated. The problem there is Michael McLeod took this consent video, and in the video, he asked her if she was consenting. And she said something like to the fact, yeah, you're so paranoid, I consent and I'm sober. Now, the video itself is not evidence of consent, because you can't consent after the fact. But what the judge said is, that aside, in that video, you looked sober. It sort of factors that would suggest high levels of intoxication. You're stumbling, lack of balance, slurred speech, confused. None of that was in the video. So those are just some examples of the evidence that I would go through during the course of the trial, and was just left with this sense that the Crown wasn't making its case. And again, with Formenton, I don't understand why. And there was a line. It was actually Alex Formenton's lawyer, Dan Brown. And Dan Brown, I thought there was one sentence that he offered up on the cross-examination of EM, which I thought captured really nicely the defense's legal theory here. Because it was, EM said she was outnumbered, autopilot, felt intimidated, and the defense was saying, you were a willing participant. You egged the players on. When they didn't come over, you were disappointed. And he said this, quote, "Do you believe it's easier to deny your deliberate choices than to acknowledge the shame, guilt, and embarrassment that you felt about your choices afterwards?" That was kind of what it came down to. So no, I wasn't surprised. at all.
So, for everything you just said there, combined with in the summary of things, as the judge went through the explanation of things right out of the gate, she used words like the evidence from the complainant wasn't reliable, wasn't credible, and I found those to be, and you would know way better than me, but I was surprised to hear those words, like really dramatically dismissive of the level of or caliber of evidence that was being brought forth from the complainant. Like it made me wonder, and I'm the layman, but to hear those words come from the judge at the conclusion of this thing, it almost felt like, well, should this even have been brought to trial if those are the words the judge is using at the end? What did you think?
That's the ultimate question. Should this have been brought to trial? Because initially it wasn't going to. And then there was Hockey Canada settled the civil lawsuit that she filed. That went public. Players weren't afforded due process for that. They had to settle. They were strong-armed. And then there was a lot of public pressure to bring criminal charges. And so that's what happened. The judge, Justice Corrochia, said that you're right, that she wasn't reliable or credible. There were a number of instances during the trial where what she did or what she said contradicted what she told police back in 2018. So when you have inconsistencies in your statements like that, judges don't like to see that. That to them is a red flag. There was also a statement that I remember she made on cross-examination. And I highlighted it on my show because to me that was a massive deal. And Justice Corrochia mentioned it explicitly in her decision yesterday. And it was on cross where she was asked, well, is that the truth? And she says, well, that's my truth. Like, that is going to be a massive problem for you, because now what is happening is that by saying it's your truth, you're making assumptions to fill in gaps based upon your memory. And also it suggests a subjective approach to your interpretation of the events. And so the judge highlighted that.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me, as we look at the aftermath, one of the things we're seeing on social media, and I believe it's born from a place of wanting to be thoughtful and have care to victims present and in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this dialogue of the concept of always believe the victim. And again, I think that's an attempt to be thoughtful, but really that when we talk about a court of law, that's really a non-starter, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think you've nailed it. And that reflexively, you want to be sensitive and you want to be empathetic because someone's bringing forward these horrific claims. At the same time, it turns on the evidence and whether the claim itself is reasonably actionable and whether there is a basis to bring forward the claim. With Formenton, I don't think it should have been brought. I look at the other ones, the instances, maybe in the case of Kalen Foote, who allegedly removed his pants and the splits over her. No one is going to say that they asked for that, and that's sexual assault, right? It was denied that his pants were off in Carter Hart's testimony, and the judge just thought that just wasn't enough. And frankly, if that was just the only charge and he was the only defendant, Kalen Foote, it never would have gone to trial because you don't charge someone with sexual assault for that. I think that's why Formenton was included, as was Michael McLeod, because there were only two that had intercourse with EM. But you're right. That's the tension here, right?
Yeah,
there's a tension.
I think so. No, it's just across the board. It's been a regrettable situation. The way it was handled. The intense media scrutiny. It's just been a regrettable situation. But as we move forward now, because all 5 of these hockey players are free to go and pursue a hockey career, whether that's the NHL or not, is going to be, I guess, up to Gary Bettman. There has been, I think, in the past an NHL investigation, but the NHL is going to, I guess, review everything that the judge talked about and the findings. Do you think the NHL will open the door to all 5 players freely if they want to get back in the league or there's interest in them?
I think Carter Hart's playing the NHL as soon as next season. I think that the NHL statement yesterday or this week was effectively a placeholder Players are ineligible. It's just a placeholder. What they're saying is, translation, we want to engage in a cost-benefit analysis with respect to having the players back and see what is public sentiment. Public sentiment in this is not squarely on one side. That's what I have learned talking to a lot of people. The 5 players have gone through a criminal trial and have been acquitted. And remember, when you go to trial, you're presumed innocent. So when you're acquitted doesn't mean you are innocent, but you're presumed innocent to begin with. So I've seen some statements online from some reporters that to me is misleading. They're saying, well, even though they're acquitted, it doesn't mean they're not guilty. Well, no, that's not accurate. And that to me is that position is designed to support a certain position. Here, they're presumed innocent. And the league has allowed the legal side of this to unfold and has resulted in a legal declaration, namely an acquittal. So at this point in time, the NHLPA is right. They're now in a position where they can rightfully resume gainful employment in the NHL if a team wants to sign them. Some teams have high risk tolerance, some have low risk tolerance. I could see the Oilers signing a guy like Carter Hart, for example.
Yeah, I think Hart is the obvious one. I also think, honestly, and I'm not saying that just because we cover the Sens here, I think Formenton, he's been out of it for a year and a half, but that was a guy that had 18 goals, I want to say 34 points in his first full season in the NHL when all this went down. Then he ended up going over to Switzerland. I feel like he could help the Senators right now as well. So let's use those cases. In the case of Hart and Formenton, let's say the Oilers and Senators signed those 2 players. Mm-hmm. You're one of the top trademark lawyers in North America, and you know about brands. What level of damage to the brand could that do to a certain segment of their fan bases?
There are going to be some people that no matter what you tell them, they will be against it. You've used social media, that term, a number of times in this interview or in this discussion, and you go on and you see it. I posted stuff that is objective and empirical, and there is predictable blowback. But I don't know if it's the right approach to ensure that those individuals are satisfied with your action. I think you have to take an adult approach to this. So there were charges laid. They weren't proven. Based upon all of the evidence, it wasn't a strong case to begin with. Am I right to deny them further employment in the NHL?
Right.
That's an answer for each team to answer for themselves.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting for sure. And I wonder about, because I'd say this case has been about a couple of things. The issue of consent, it's in terms of, the dialogue nationally that's occurred around it. But I think also the people have been talking about the toxic junior hockey culture. I've always felt like we only hear the bad. I think that minor hockey and amateur hockey in general, I think, is filled with more good than bad. But there are people out there who have been through the junior hockey wars, and they've seen how toxic and entitled that the whole thing can get. Do we, as well, whether we're talking about Hockey Canada or hockey fans, do we need to start talking more about this and addressing this as a problem?
It's interesting, as you say that, first thing that comes to mind and kind of ties into what I was saying before is you may not agree with what happened, but you need to determine in your own mind whether it was criminal or not, whether it rose to the level of criminal activity. Insofar as the general question you just raised or the topic you just raised about talking about this, so I think it's going to have a cooling effect and probably a necessary cooling effect. And people are going to be more careful moving forward, make more considered decisions and not put themselves in a situation where they could possibly get into trouble. Michael McLeod took 2 consent videos during the time in room 209, thinking that he was doing what he needed to do. But even then, it wasn't enough. So I think this has spawned a further discussion about hockey culture and maybe sports culture generally, and just male culture as well. And some sense of entitlement that may exist. And it's a very good discussion to have. And it's a worthy discussion to have. And there's no there's no downside to having it, right? So I think it's necessary, and as a parent, it's something that I welcome. Absolutely.
For sure. All right. So thank you for answering all those questions because they're a lot of them are uncomfortable and you handle them all beautifully. Let's finish up with a little bit of levity because I also know you to be as big a Habs fan and knowledgeable as anybody I know. I'm curious to, because they are a Senator rival. What did you think of the Canadiens off season, and are you excited about this fall?
I like the Canadiens off season. I love the acquisition of Noah Dobson. I know if you look at his B reel, there might be some turnovers and stuff, but he's still a top pairing defenseman. AAV of $9.5 million, probably fair market value, $10.5 million with the cap going up. So I thought that was a really good acquisition by the Canadiens. You look down the line, their D complement will be Dobson, Hudson, Reinbacher, Gouli, and Carrier. That's your top 5 out of 6. That's a pretty good decor. Other than Gouli, it still lacks the toughness that you need, a Vegas Golden Knights type of decor toughness. And I think that's an issue the Canadiens are facing. They did the best they could. They wanted to acquire a second-line centerman. They're unavailable. So they got Bolduc, who play the wing, probably a top 6 forward, but right now maybe a third liner. So they did the best they could to plug those holes. Is the team better than they were last year? I don't know. They don't really have a viable left-handed centerman for those faceoffs. Dvorak's gone. They picked up Veleno, but I mean, he's a fringe player at best, making $900,000. That's going to tell you everything about what the Canadiens think about him. So the team, I think, is probably a bit better than they were last year, simply by virtue of having more reps and simply by virtue of having perhaps a more reliable decor. So that will make the team better. What I am excited about, yes, go ahead.
No, I don't want to take away from what you are excited about.
What
You're about to say what I am excited about. Well, now I need to know.
What I am excited about is it's what the acquisition of Noah Dobson probably represents to me. It's not that he wants to play in Montreal. It's something that I think is far more interesting for Canadiens fans, Leafs fans, and any team that has ownership that's willing to spend. The cap's going up by $25 million over the next 3 years. We're going to hit a point where teams don't want to spend to the cap for a number of reasons. Don't want to spend that kind of money, full stop. Not generating the kind of media dollars after the local regional deals like they were before because of the collapse of the regional sports networks. Not the same kind of money coming in. Look at the Avalanche. Mikko Rantanen dropped his ask. Next day he was traded. Some teams just don't want to spend. The teams who want to spend will be able to acquire Mikko Rantanens and Noah Dobsons. And as a Habs fan, I like that because you might be able to plug that glaring gap at center on the second line down the line. And I think that the cap going up as fast as it's going up may provide teams willing to spend with unexpected opportunities.
When you said what I am excited about, and I wanted you to finish that thought, I was hoping it would benefit me more. But as it turned out, it didn't. But it was all good stuff.
But your owner, Ann Lauer, is...
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He's got Habs blood in him, so he's going to spend.
True. He's
a Habs fan.
Whether he spends to the cap or not, I don't know. It sounded
Is it
like
true he's changed the name to the Ottawa Canadiens?
No,
Okay.
He's not going to do that. But earlier when you said what I am excited about, I was hoping it was going to be something like was dropping off a Monopoly-sized bag of cash at your front door, Steve. Like I was thinking that would be something that would benefit me a little more. But the Dobson stuff was also good. Just throwing that in there. So are you're thinking they'll be a little better? Are they catching the Sens? Are they catching the first place Leafs? Where are they in the pecking order here?
Oh, Leafs are going to regret Marner. Oh my goodness, they
didn't do anything.
They are going to. He's one of the best players in the NHL. Arguably the best winger outside of Mikko Rantanen in the NHL, maybe even better. And playing in a system that's perfect, a puck possession team like Vegas, it's perfect for him. That matters because when Mikko was traded to the Hurricanes, they're not a puck possession team. They're dump and chase. So that's why he couldn't produce. And he goes to Dallas, another top 3 puck possession team in the league. The Leafs, I think, are going to have some issues. Winning games without Marner. It's a massive loss, and it's kind of funny. And Tavares is cute, but it's close to over there. So I think the Canadiens can catch him. Yes. Sens, I don't know. Sens are a good hockey team. Great little core, right? So who knows? Just a team that has underperformed.
Sens fans that are listening in don't want to hear you say little. It's very dismissive.
Well, I use that term on purpose to be hurtful.
I understand.
Yeah. You know me,
No.
Steve. My whole thing in life is I resent other people's success and I want to hurt people.
That's nice. That's really nice. To your thought about Marner, I don't think Maselli is going to replace Marner. I don't think Maselli's the answer.
Tony Maselli? From Who's the Boss?
I was just going to ask you the 80s trivia to close it, and you wrecked it. How dare you?
What were you going to say? Oh, okay.
I was going to say, what sitcom family had the surname Maselli? And
hey, Steven. Don't be mean to me.
Oh, man.
Is that you, Mona? Right. How you doing? Yeah. She's dead, yes.
Okay. You made it sound like Tony Danza busted a move on his they never got married. I was going to say stepmother, but I don't know. Vague memories of Who's the Boss from a million years ago. Okay, you've challenged my brain a lot today. Kind of gapped out there a couple of times there, and I was like,
I hate Eric. Yes.
How dare you make me think? I'm here to talk hockey, damn it. Thank you so much, Eric, for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
It's just you, man. It's just you. There's no us.
Oh, all right. Fair
I made the same mistake on Offside. We're going to be talking to him. I go, wait a minute. There's no we. It's just me. I'm alone, and I'm angry.
Right.
But you're not
going
angry.
Well? Show's going well?
I don't know. There are no ratings. I have no clue.
Where do I find it?
The usual places.
All right, fair enough. The TSN family of radio stations and online, of course. Yes.
Ottawa and Montreal, and then
I resent you for not. I resent you for not organizing another. I remember it was during COVID. The two of us sitting at either ends of your driveway in little lawn chairs that you set up for us and drinking our face off one evening. We need to set something up like that again, I think.
Okay,
right?
so I've since moved. Okay, we now live in a home that's not a semi because I was too rich for that. That was enough.
Right, of course.
We're currently building a pool. So the backyard's a massive, massive mess.
Right.
But when it's down, let's get our thongs and go for a swim.
I don't swim. I have an upper
body.
You said
like a thong. No,
I have an upper body like the bag of milk, as they say. I do not want to show that off. But yeah, that sounds good. We'll do something like that or lunch or something like that. But I do appreciate you being on the show and enjoy your weekend, my friend. Thank you.
I love you, Stephen.
All right, fine. I love you too. How about that? I'm not very comfortable in that sort of an outgoing expression of affection.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.